Several young men, surveying a ruined fire tower in the woods, find a pendant there, which they take with them. This brings back to life an unkillable maniac who had carried out a bloodbath in these parts of the woods 10 years ago. Risen from the dead follows in the footsteps of the company, killing in the most brutal way anyone who meets him on the way. Horror is one of the most flexible and convenient genres for creative experimentation, and it was horror films that helped to form a flock of talented, original filmmakers, who emerged into mainstream cinema, accustomed to dissecting patterns and exploring seemingly immutable boundaries. And while the description might make it seem like In a Violent Nature is a most traditional slasher, it actually has more in common with the indie films that are beloved at Sundance Festival rather than with the Friday the 13th franchise that begs for comparison in the first place. According to the director and screenwriter of In a Violent Nature, Chris Nash, the idea for the movie came to him more than 20 years ago, when he watched Jerry by Gus Van Sant and was impressed by its concise yet succinct form. He was hooked by the idea of making a slasher in which the viewer would associate himself not with the victims of the maniac, but with the killer. The movie to follow him relentlessly, to immerse himself in this sick and cruel, but in its own way logical and simple world, where everything is maximally understandable at the level of some primitive instincts. The predator hunts because the thirst for blood is in his nature, and let those whom he tears off limbs and breaks skulls ask themselves questions of morality. In a Violent Nature has the unexpected side effect of being a sedative, meditative and in its own way beautiful movie that has a lot in common with wildlife documentaries and some animal simulation video games, like Stray, which invited the player to get into the skin of a stray cat. Most of the time, the resurrected killer wanders leisurely through the forest, tracking his victims, and the script is written so cleverly that authors have time to tell the legend of the monster's appearance in the world, explain what he needs, and thinly outline the dynamics of relationships in the company of young people, on whom he opened the hunt. But the measured dynamics of the beginning of the movie is deceptive. Chris Nash has mastered various techniques of building up suspense and tension, which he brilliantly shows in the double murder by the lake in the middle of the movie. The first of these is resolved in a minimalist Arthouse way. We see only the girl floating in the water, but we know that her death, silent and merciless, is approaching her from the bottom. The second one is of a radically different kind, with a lot of brutal close-up details and so crazy in its idea that it will surely make it to the top of the lists of the most wild and memorable screen deaths. These are two very different scenes in terms of meaning and content, but they are equally well done and have the same powerful effect, which shows a potentially great creator in Nash. However, the fact that we are dealing with a real prodigy is known quite a long time ago. 10 years ago, the horror almanac The ABCs of Death 2 closed with his novel Z as a zygote, strange and creepy in a good way, and it was an impressive exercise in body horror, both in terms of drama and technical execution. It's even odd that Nash got the opportunity to direct his first full-length feature only now, but better late than never, and In a Violent Nature gives him powerful cred for future work.